Today we're going to talk about the redemptive gift of giver child. The giver gift is wise, resourceful, and protective. Givers are designed to steward resources, build strong foundations, and trust God as their provider. This can also show up as caution, loyalty, and a natural sense of responsibility. And it's important for parents to partner with God in their design to teach them to trust God rather than relying solely on themselves. So, giver children have a lot of strengths, and like other gifts, they have some struggles. So, some of the strengths of giver children are that they are resourceful thinkers. They often come up with practical solutions. They are wise and they are thoughtful and really smart. Another strength is that they're protective. They want to keep their family and friends safe. And so they'll do whatever it takes to help keep people safe, to stand up for others, and to do mostly what's right. They are also responsible and loyal. They take commitments seriously and they want to be dependable. They are also wise with resources, and even as kids, they may make wise choices with money or toys or time and tend to steward their resources pretty wisely. But they also are independent, which they like to figure out things on their own. So it's important as a parent to celebrate their ability to think ahead, make wise choices, and protect those that they love. Some of the struggles that giver children have is that they struggle to believe that God will provide. They have a tendency to be afraid of lack. And so you can see that if they have their own money or they're worried about timing and things like that, that's mostly out of a fear of lack. And there's not enough time or there's not enough money, that kind of thing. So that's something to watch out for with the giver child. They also have a tendency to want to control things. They might hold tightly to money or their own possessions or even people because they want to control how things go and how the resources are used. They're very strong bend toward wanting to control things. And this comes from a strong bend towards self-sufficiency as well. Just like independence is a good thing, but it is also a struggle for them because they may prefer to rely on themselves instead of asking for help. And this can get them in a lot of trouble because sometimes it's easier to ask for help and get guidance for how to do something, but they will just dive right in and kind of make a mess as they go because they are wanting to be self-sufficient instead of relying on others. And this will translate into their relationship with God as well. They want to do it by themselves instead of asking God for help. So that is an area of growth for the giver child. They also can be guarded. They may be cautious with trust and hesitant to open up fully. And so this is an area where they can grow because that also will translate into their relationship with God as not trusting Him either or being guarded with God and thinking that they're doing Him a service instead of working on that intimacy with God and trusting God as their provider, protector, and promise keeper. Another struggle that givers have is their performance pressure. They may believe that their worth is tied to what they can provide, tied to how they use the resources, or tied to what others think of them. And so it's important to know that about your giver child and understand that their identity in Christ is important rather than what they do. So help them to see that God is the ultimate provider, protector, and promise keeper so they don't carry that weight alone and think that they're the one that has to do the providing, the protecting, and the keeping of the promises. So what can you do as the parent of a giver child? The first is to model trust in God. Share your testimonies of how God has provided for your family or for you so that your child can see that God is trustworthy through your witness and example. And then you can also help them acknowledge those places where they don't trust God, where they don't believe that He will come through for them, and to be authentic with themselves and with God to say, you know what, I don't think I really trust you in this area. help me to trust you more. So you can model that for them, but then also encourage that within them as well. Another area that you can help is to encourage generosity. Give them opportunities to share, give, and bless others and use their resources wisely, because while it is wise to budget your money or to save it for what you want to do, it's also important to be generous with what you do. And so by releasing those resources and stewarding them well, you are preparing them and setting them up for success for later in life when they have more resources and more things to do with them. Another thing is to teach dependence on God. Remind them they don't have to carry everything themselves, that they do not have to be self-sufficient, because God is their ever-present help and strength. And so by pointing back to God, pointing back to Jesus and how he provides everything that they need, even if they're frustrated or struggling or uncertain or fearful, that will help remind them that they don't have to do it on their own now instead of later. But be sure not to curse this part of their design, because it is very important for givers to learn and to be strengthened in this area that they are dependent on God. And so how do you do that? Well, you have to be dependent on God. And so God will give you opportunities to practice dependence on him. So be sure not to curse their design and not to belittle them for their lack of dependence or lack of trust, because that may be exactly the area that God is working on them. So it's important to partner with God in order to help develop them and grow them in that area. Affirming their value and identity is super important, because they need to know that they are loved for who they are, not what they do, making sure that they understand their identity in Christ and that you are affirming them in that realm instead of by their actions or by their resources or by their wisdom. It's also important as the parent of a giver child to balance independence within community. So teach them that it's good to both give and to receive, and how to receive, because a lot of times we are very good at receiving, but not very good at giving, or we're very good at giving, but not very good at receiving either love, validation, affirmation, intimacy, right? And so it's important for there to be balance there. And so givers have a tendency to want to hold on to their resources or use them only for what they deem as necessary and important, when it's important for us to understand that, yes, we have resources, but when we give those away, God will happily replenish them, because we're using his resources for his purposes. They're not our resources, they're his. And so helping them understand that within the context of community, in the context of balance, is going to be super important for the giver, especially as they're growing and developing. So these are all ways that you can partner with God when you have the redemptive gift of giver child. And so if you found these tips helpful and important, we talked about the strengths and the struggles and ways that you can partner with God to help them grow. This is available in my parenting mini guide, Redemptive Gift Parenting Mini Guide, that's available on my website at ashleytilford.com. And in that is included more things like Bible verses about giver, practical parenting strategies, prayers, blessings, that kind of thing, reflection questions for the giver child. All of that is available in the parenting mini guide if you found this helpful. Also, if you want to learn more about the redemptive gifts, I have a course available that goes through every redemptive gift. And then it also talks about ways that you can partner with God for serving or parenting within that gift. So check out my website at ashleytilford.com for more resources and the next video on the redemptive gift of ruler.